Hangout was never supposed to happen. And the wrong people are going to get a good fucking kick out of it. So lap it up while it still exists. So I just want to say to everyone, guys, that I've been a huge fan of the Non Sequitur show. I have loved what they have done. I loved the guests that they have brought on. It was a fucking honor to speak to some of the people that they had on as guests. And it was a fucking privilege to absolutely destroy flat earthers on that platform. One of the most famous videos on that platform is when I basically took Jeranism, bent him over my knee, took a paddle, and just went to fucking town.
That was a good one.
It was a really good
one. The remainder of your time?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That will be a t-shirt eventually. But unfortunately, guys, some shit has happened where my support of the Non Sequitur show has been thrown into question. Now, I'm not saying at all, at any point, that I no longer support the Non Sequitur show. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that I don't want it to come to that. Now, part of the reason why I followed the Non Sequitur show is because of the people who are running it. And some shit has come up where that has been thrown into fucking limbo and shit. To describe this in a very calm way, I'm now going to pass it off to Steve McCrae to explain what has happened. And I ask that you all in the live chat just sit back and listen. Go ahead, Steve. Floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Reds. So last couple of weeks, people have been noticing that I haven't been on Non Sequitur as much as I normally would be, which was normally 4 days a week plus a flat earth every so often. A lot of things have been going on with Kyle's life. He's had some stuff going on, which we're not going to get into. I've taken that into account, and hopefully that he will get those things taken care of. However, there's been some changes behind my back that I'm not aware of and was not made aware of until we talked to him a few minutes ago. And these changes directly affect my financial status. I started the Non Sequitur show with Kyle, and the agreement was everything was to be divided 50-50 from perpetuity, from residuals, and everything else from that channel. That's what I relied on. That's what I based my whole future on, and anything that I even told my daughter, if anything happens to me, contact this, Kyle and the information, because there's residuals from that channel. That channel's worth some money. To date, I have not seen a dime from the Patreon, from the Streamlabs, from the channel, from anything. I've not seen any financials. I've asked for them. I can't get any. I don't know where any of the money has went. But the thing is Kyle wants to change how the monies are done. He wants to no longer make it 50-50. He no longer wants to be the Non Sequitur show that I grew in love. And he wants to make unilateral decisions because he's basically taken it over. He's just recently kicked David off as a manager. He kicked me off as a manager. We no longer have access to the Non Sequitur show, and again to the Patreon or anything else. So I have no way to validate any of this information, right? It's a little disconcerting. Now, I don't want to try to badmouth Kyle. Kyle, I know he's going through a lot of stuff, and I want this to be an intervention, but he has, for some reason, catered to certain popular opinion for detractors that I personally do not get along with, which is fine. But I have people have left the Non Sequitur show to come to my channel, patrons included, that have increased my Patreon because they no longer want to give to the Non Sequitur show because it's not the show that it used to be. I get that, and it probably has balanced out in some ways. But if Kyle wants to take the show into the direction to have it more along the lines of, promoting atheism and promoting homosexuality, I've never had an issue with that. Of course, I stand by both. There's many atheists I love and adore, and there's some I don't get along with. But you're not going to please everybody. The whole thing of the show was basically starting to be, from the beginning, was opinions are sacred, except with my opinions differ from Kyle's friends' opinions. Then that cannot happen, and that seems to be the case. And so they're whispering in his ear, that I should not be making 50% of the proceeds when everything we started was 50%. I brought in the guests, and I've asked him. I've given you guests. You don't respond to him, and his thing was, well, I want to go in a different direction in the show, so I don't want those guests. Well, you never told me which guests you want. I have not heard from Kyle in 3 weeks, except for him to say something about his medical condition. That's it. And one other time when he was sick, he said, "Do the show tonight." Other than that, Kyle's not communicated with me, and it seems like I don't want to accuse him of anything. I honestly don't. This is an intervention, but my livelihood is at stake here. My future is at stake here because I helped build this channel, and now he wants to renegotiate and say, "No, you don't. You do not get half the proceeds." He wants to take all the Teespring. He wants to take all the Patreon. He wants to take all the funding except for my 4 days. He wants to give me anything I do for 4 days a week. That I find to be unacceptable, and I want the court of opinion to weigh in on that, because he caters to the public opinion, and I know he's going through a lot of stuff right now, and I think he could fix this. I think we can fix this, but this is not the direction that I think Kyle really should be going, because we have a great show. We have a great rapport with each other. Yes, he does an incredible amount of work. He's talented. People paid $1,000 for his software. $1,000 they gave him for his software, if I'm not mistaken. So he can do what he does best. So he can make the music. So he can make the thumbs. So he can show his talent. Because we had a show to have talent on and bring in talent and started channels that have talent. I don't think any of that needs to change.
Well, to go from that, we just came from a private phone call, which I'm only going to slightly weigh in on. But what was said and what was acknowledged is that when this show originally started, that it would be split 50-50.
And Kyle told you this as well, right?
Yes, Kyle told me this as well. Somewhere along the lines, and without informing anybody, there was a shift in that. And a shift in mentality when it came to what Kyle thought should be considered fair. But there was no conversation with Steve about this. So what happened is, in my opinion, completely unacceptable. Now, what I've heard from Steve is that he has acknowledged that he doesn't do as much as Kyle did, but Steve has offered, actually, in the last private call that we were in, Steve McRae has offered Kyle to work more, take some of the load off of him, and make it 50% if he feels as though 50% of the effort is not being given.
Yes.
This is that was not, how do I say, he didn't want to go that route. Now to anyone, I can also understand that Kyle wanted something out of this, maybe because he thought that Steve was an asshole, as some people in the live chat seem to agree. You still have an obligation to that person. And by the way, I also know that Steve can be a little rough around the edges, but I also know one thing for a fact: nothing that he says comes from a bad place, and he deserves the respect of at least being spoken to and not having bullshit being done behind his back,
or at least be taken charitably.
Yes, basically all concept of charity has gone out the window, and this is why, as of right now, I'm questioning my support of the Non Sequitur show. That I really don't know how to feel about this. I really don't know how to process this. This isn't something that I wanted. This isn't a hangout that I wanted to have, but we also have I guess a gauntlet that's been thrown down, and that is the court of public opinion, because that was brought up in the previous call that I was in. So if the court of public opinion is what really matters here, then I think the court of public opinion should be notified so that they can go ahead and weigh in on the issue.
Yeah, and by the way, I just got a notification before we went live that I was reduced to communication manager. He has now removed all access for me and David from the Non Sequitur show.
Yeah.
I got the same notification. I don't have access to the show in any way, shape, or form.
Now, I am going to branch this off to some people who I trust and get their take on it. So besides that, a person who I really do trust and a person who is a really good judge of character, as history will demonstrate, is Sean Hufford. Sean, since this is a court of public opinion, I want to know your opinion, whether you're for us or against us. Don't feel pressured either way. Just give us what you honestly think.
Well, this literally just got laid on me within the last 10 minutes. I knew nothing of this going on. So all I've got to go on is what you guys have presented. But it leads to some root questions. Who actually founded the Non-Sex Show?
I started the YouTube channel myself. My name. I turned it over to him for SEO. He talked me into turning it over to him. He didn't want to do a YouTube channel. He just wanted to do the podcast. He's said this many times. I talked him into doing a YouTube channel, and I turned it over to him because he was better at SEO. So it's in his name.
All right. Was there any kind of verbal or written contracts involved?
There was verbal agreements, plus we have emails back and forth, plus he's fully admitted that. I mean, I have recordings and stuff, and Reds has heard it. He has said, yes, we're supposed to be 50-50 from perpetuity, from day one, all things. And then he just changed it when we were talking to him. Oh, well, no, t-shirts are all mine now.
Oh, okay. And that goes to another question.
And the Patreon for
during those negotiations when it was originally set up, how was the managerial structure played out?
He was supposed to do all the creative stuff. I was supposed to do all the guests and all promotions. Or most of the guest promotions, which if you notice during the podcast, almost every one of the big name guests were people that I brought to the table.
Okay, but what I'm talking about was in a corporation, you have your CEO, you have your SCO. Where did you and Steve lie in that organization?
I am Steve.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you know.
He would have been CFO. I trusted him with all the finances.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're CFO, when somebody else asks you for financials, they should be instant. I've been trying to get financials from him since 2017. Not a single week. But I would probably been the COO, maybe. I mean, again, my thing was to go out there, promote it, and get guests, which I did constantly. I spent numerous nights going to different places to find guests. I would go out to YouTube channels and be in a live chat, ask people if they want to come on. And the last month, a couple months especially, people have been messaging me, and you know who you are, and you feel to say something. How many people have messaged me, Steve?
Well, hold on, Steve.
Hang on. We're getting a little passionate here.
Yeah,
just
I was going to say, hold on. I'm actually just trying to get factual information. Right. I'm trying to keep opinion completely out of this.
Yeah.
So if he was CFO, what was your position in the company, so to speak?
Well, it wasn't a corporation.
Well, so I'm just saying, if he had CFO powers, were you above, equal, or below him?
Oh, we would have been equal. Yeah, we would have been 50-50 across the board. He had I just kind of gave him creativity, to try to do his graphic stuff. Although I did some, like I did Red's graphics and stuff. But as far as like our decision making, we always from day one had the same decision. And all of a sudden, he kind of left me in the dust on that one.
So this wasn't even considered a hostile takeover. This is just literally you're just getting the fuck out, and you had no say so.
Yeah, he didn't tell me about any of this stuff. He didn't tell me about any of these changes.
It's like a silent push, not a aggressive.
I've been trying to get a hold of him for 3 weeks, but I know he's been going on. I know he has some stuff going on, so I have not pushed him on this, right? Because of those things. But I think, maybe I should have, but I didn't want to be, because I understand he's going through some stuff and maybe it's affecting him. I don't know. But at the same time, this is affecting me because it's affecting my finances now.
Just going by the factual information that I've gotten from this hangout, keeping an opinion out of this, Steve, you done wrong. Or not, I'm sorry, Kyle, you done wrong by booting out Steve and Bullinator with zero discussion. If you wanted to, quote unquote, buy them out, that would have been a different story. You literally just forced them out and took everything over for yourself.
And I did suggest, Sean, I said, look Kyle, you have a lot of creativity. If you want to take all your shows and move them to another channel, right? Start your own channel, give Bullinator and me non-sequitur. I'll split it with a 50-50. And any perpetuity, any funding from the show in perpetuity, right, from the channel, I will spend him 50% on my word or in writing. I think that would have been a fair buyout.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if it was 50-50, it should have been discussed. There should have been a price point to buy the other person out. It shouldn't have said, well, here you go, here's the door, get the fuck out. It should not.
Yeah, it's a business.
Especially when there's $40,000 in limbo right now that's not accounted for.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and make sure that people are aware of something. We don't act like other people who have disagreements with a certain individual. I still respect Kyle a metric fuck ton.
Me too.
All right?
Me too.
That's never going to change. But Kyle has not texted me. He has not messaged me on Hangouts or on the twatters that he wants in. Now, here's the thing, guys. If Kyle wants into this hangout to give his side of the story, I will be more than happy to give him the link. He is not excluded from this.
Yeah.
So I want to make that very fucking clear.
Me too. And can I say real quick, it's more than 40,000. That's just for the non sequitur itself. That's not including Patreon. There's probably $50,000-$60,000 in funding right now. That because I mean, you figure that Patreon's $1,000 a month. I mean, so yeah, there's thousands and tens of thousands of dollars that I don't know what the hell is going on. That's supposed to be in perpetuity. That's why I founded this channel with Kyle, so I had something to fall back on.
Yeah. So
because he has,
well, hang on. I need you to take a breath. Jared, I'm going to ask you for your opinion now. From based on what you've heard so far, what is your take on this? Or do you need more information? Any questions that you want to ask or something like that? And then I'm going to go to the live chat and start reading some stuff from the live chat.
I am one that really, in these sorts of situations, don't like conflict that is unnecessary. Before this, I was briefly and very high level made aware of some of the, to which I even said to the person that I was talking to, I hope it's able to be resolved appropriately, but if legal required, that's what needs to be done, because it doesn't matter whether or not you agree on any subject or not. When you have a business agreement, you stick to that agreement.
Right.
And if you want to change it and you negotiate it, you need to make sure the prior existing agreement is made whole prior to any renegotiations. And this is coming from someone who has run actually a couple of them at once. And the biggest thing in that is when you make a deal, verbal, especially written in a business environment, you have to stick to the agreement. Plain and simple.
All right.
And that's just what blows my mind on this. How can you ethically or just rationally say, no, fuck this deal, I'm going to do what I want?
You can't. That's not how businesses are run. I was in retail 20 years.
Hang on. We have Chess. Floor is yours to give opinion if you have one.
I mean, my opinions are mostly about what would happen to the show if this goes through the way it does, because I'm kind of concerned that Kyle's court of public opinion is Twitter and nothing else.
Yeah.
And that is a big problem. That is a big fucking problem, because Twitter only probably makes up a percentage of the audience that actually backs Non Sequitur. And Twitter is also an overly emotional dumpster fire, which is what it's supposed to be. But the Non Sequitur show, as you probably noticed from some of the people also in the chat talking about this, is that the Non Sequitur show is also become a dumpster fire channel, a drama channel. You're having this issue where I would argue, and this is no offense to the Non Sequitur show, but you blew your load on all the flat earth shit. What you could have done is you could have done flat earth stuff, and you have Reds on maybe once a month. You have Fight the Flat Earth on another month.
By the way, I didn't want to have it all the time. I thought
so you spread that shit out, but now you're running into a problem of GE and Kyle scrambling to get a flat earther to come on, and they don't, because they've scared them all away by cramming all of the flat earth shit all together all at once instead of spreading it. Had they spread it out, they'd be able to get Nathan Thompson still. They'd be able to get people who would be able to come on and make an actually interesting show, and then you've spread the dumpster fire out. So the people who want to watch dumpster fires will come back for those dumpster fires, and you can put more interesting, maybe not necessarily more controversial, but more intellectual conversation in between. Like with the way the show is currently going, you're never going to get somebody like Krause again. Never. It's not going to happen. And the show will, the quality of the show will drop. The quality of the show will decline, just simply because you're losing parts of the show that you need for it to be what it was, and where it was going. And in doing so, you're going to create an entirely different kind of channel. And that kind of channel isn't going to be, again, just judging by even just the chat here, is not the channel that these people here want to see.
Yeah. Also, to keep this in mind, I was said is a public hangout really the best way to bring attention to this issue or to try and solve this issue? People, if you're just joining us, let me just explain how we got here. We actually had a private discussion with Kyle about this before this hangout was even a thing. In fact, after the discussion was over, we were supposed to get the 33 Flat Earth fucktard into the call and then go ahead and have the show. But because it went in a direction that it went, no show for tonight. And we, of course, had to kind of make one on our own.
That's been consistent.
Yeah. So now because of this, I of course have no other choice. I mean, basically in the previous call, a gauntlet was thrown down, court of public opinion type of gauntlet. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not doing any of this to shit on anyone. Like I said, I'm not gay, but I fucking love Kyle. Okay. And I want Kyle, I want non-sec to succeed. I want it to be the best fucking thing to ever exist since sliced bread. Okay. I want it to be the best fucking thing since my relationship with chess. But you win some, you lose some, I guess. But what we need here is just for people to give Kyle a little push. Like, listen, we understand that you were concerned about, Steve's involvement with non-sec and what it would mean for the long term. But as is clearly demonstrated by the chat, I would say a lot of people were in support of Steve staying. A lot of people are actually in support of Steve staying and being part of the show. And I also think a lot of people are in agreement that going in the direction that Kyle went is a little bit ass backwards. Now, what I would really want out of this, what I would like to see out of this is eventually everything be fixed and then the show go back to what it was previously. And could it possibly not happen because of what we're doing? Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, I think the truth should be told. I mean, if a court of public opinion is really that powerful for him, then fine, we'll have one. And it is his choice whether or not he listens to it. Mm-hmm. But I want Bullinator to be part of the Non Sequitur show. I want Steve to be part of the Non Sequitur show. I want Kyle to be part of the Non Sequitur show. I want, like Shannon Q to be part of it. I want Godless Engineer to be part of it, along with his incredibly massive penis. I want all of them, including GE's massive penis, to be part of the Non Sequitur show. That's what the Non Sequitur is. That's what made it so fucking great. And unfortunately, I see that kind of not happening and stuff. Oh yeah, by the way, just to be sure that we are under the same page here, Kevin, do me a favor and eat a dick.
Okay, you should also read because we didn't cover the money aspect of things. Again, you might want to just briefly touch on that.
I'll actually let Steve.
Sure,
Steve
yeah.
Well, I mean, look people need to get a hold of Kyle and explain to him that when you make a handshake agreement with somebody, because I trusted him and I still want to trust him. I think this is fixable, but we're dealing with tens of thousands of dollars, right? I mean, Reds has looked at some. He's seen more financial than I am, I think.
Unfortunately,
am I exaggerating to say that there's $40,000 to $60,000 involved, give or take?
I don't want to go too far into it. It's not my place.
All right, but the thing is that you did hear him say that we had a handshake agreement for 50-50 on all the proceeds, the Teespring, the Patreon, everything in perpetuity and everything for the channel.
Yes.
Okay. So he's made that agreement with me. You've heard it. I have it on recording. I just want him to honor that. And if he wants to do more shows, I'm fine with that. If he wants to keep the original thing, because he didn't want to do a lot of shows either, right? We decided to do 4 shows a week kind of thing. But then he started to do the Flat Earth stuff. And then he started to involve some of his other friends and stuff like that. So he decided to do those other things. Didn't ask me anything about it. Just he wanted to do those things because he liked it. Okay, fine. Okay. But that's not what the original Non Sequitur show was. Right?
Yeah, it's one thing if you're just going to cut, like if you're going to make a deal and then cut and decide to go your separate ways, that's fine. But these kinds of things need to be transparent and they need to be communicated.
But
you can't just close a glass door.
Right.
That's not how that works.
So anything on that channel anything that is in perpetuity in that channel should be half mine. That's what people need to tell Kyle. Now, you know, if for some reason he wants to cut me out, I still get 50% of that channel. And if you want to move your Patreon from Non Sequitur to my Patreon, I'm okay with that, right? But I'm not asking anybody to do anything just yet. But I think if he's a creative guy, right? I think the most equitable thing at this point, if he doesn't want to be a part of the Non Sequitur show, and he doesn't want to give me my 50%, have him start as a new channel, give it to David and I. We'll do the Non Sequitur show the way we used to, right?
Yeah,
do the graphics. I know David Emmons is willing to help out with that. I know a lot of people have suggested that to me.
Oh yeah.
And he could start something new, like Mr. Medical.
That was the original plan anyway, Steve. It was like me and Bull were supposed to pick up that heavy lifting.
Well, we'll keep this in mind. I want to,
but either still is people need to talk.
Yeah.
Contact Kyle and say, look, you cannot stop Steve from getting 50% in perpetuity because that was the original agreement. That to me is theft. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's outright stealing from me.
my
child.
I want to make this perfectly clear is that Kyle has fully accepted that was the original agreement. And because Kyle has accepted that was the original agreement, I don't think having it in writing would have been that big of an issue. Because he's accepting it right now, and I don't think Kyle has any plans on denying that in any way, shape, or form. So I'm not really worried about that, guys. I really am not. Kyle is not a douchebag like that. Let me make that perfectly fucking clear. He is not. But the thing is that there was an original agreement. That original agreement has been broken. Now, Kyle's argument for the reason why it was broken is because Steve wasn't doing 50% of the work. He was quite literally doing everything. Kyle was literally doing everything. Steve would show up and then fuck off and do whatever the fuck he does. But in the previous call that I was in, and I will place my own reputation on the line here, Steve offered in that very call to do more work, to do more of the heavy lifting for the show. Just tell him what you want him to accomplish, and he will work his ass off to make sure that it was accomplished. And if Steve needed help, he can come to me. He can come to, David, also Bullinator, and even Chess. We would all be willing to help out and make sure that Steve did his 50%. And hang on. I'm sorry I have to do this, Jackie, but no, absolutely not. I'm absolutely not, Jackie. I'm cutting you out. Jackie, please do me a favor. Don't come back here. Anyway, so moving on. There was a deal, and Steve was willing to work harder to make that deal more acceptable to Kyle, but Kyle refused. So if Kyle is refusing to even give Steve the opportunity to do more work, how is he to blame for not doing more work? It kind of doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and look, let me say something quick, because I have no choice. We really had no choice but to go public on this. This has been brewing for a month now. We can't get Kyle to do anything. We've tried to get a hold of him. He hasn't talked to me in a month. He hasn't messaged me in a month. The only message he said was something that going on with him personally, and that another time to do the show. He does not respond to my request for financials. He does not respond to my quest to if I'm on. I didn't know I was on. I didn't know we canceled 50 minutes before the show the other day. I don't know when I'm on or not. He doesn't tell Dave or I anything, not anything about what's going on with the guest. So he can't hold that against me. I've asked him, what is going on tomorrow? What are we having on? What are we doing this? I've said, I've brought 4 or 5 people in this week. Where are they? What's going on with them? And he said, did he not, says Rez, well, I didn't get back to them because I want to take the show in a different direction, which he didn't tell me, right? I asked him, why you're not responding to these people that I'm working hard to bring to the show, and you're not even bothered to respond to them. And he says, well, you're not doing anything, Steve.
Yeah,
he's also not giving you the opportunity to do anything, right? I mean, beyond that, having been working on things in the background for over a year, there's other issues too with the optics of the entire thing. Like the fact that there's whatever X amount of money sitting in an account somewhere, and yet when Bull was on the edge of being homeless, Kyle wasn't able to pop over and be like, "Oh, well, you're the producer. We're going to take care of that right now."
I gave money for. I gave money. I gave money in my own pocket, David. My own pocket,
personal pocket.
Yeah, but I gave money. Wait, Dave. I had to give money out of my own pocket that I never want to be reimbursed for to Bull to make sure that he had food.
Yeah, I know, and that behavior from Kyle is bullshit, right? And
hang on. We have to we have to go ahead and just make sure that something is stated clearly. When I said that the door was open for Kyle, I actually fucking meant it. Again, Kyle is not blocked on anything. I have no intention of blocking Kyle. He has my phone number. I have no intention of blocking his phone number. He is more than welcome into this hangout. Any other host is more than welcome into this hangout. They just have to message me on the fucking twatters, which I'm looking at my messages right now, and there's no request to actually get in. So I'm not keeping anybody out. I'm just not going to bombard the ever-living shit out of somebody to participate in a hangout that they don't want to participate in. That's not my place to make that assumption.
Yeah, and like I said, hang on.
I also like Kyle as a person. I'm not a fan of the behavior right now.
Oh no! And by the way, people are saying we didn't. We told Kyle we're going to go live. This is when we told Kyle, look, we're going to have a discussion on this. We want to get this out. You're welcome to join, because he didn't want to talk about it before. He was just like, I don't want to deal with any of this. And I said, look, this needs, both David and I and Red said we need to discuss this. This is important. So we're going to go on Red's show, and you're more welcome to. And when I said that, he said, you know what? Fuck you guys. And he removed us from access to our channel. He removed me as manager. He removed David as manager.
There was from what I can tell. I just want to make sure I've got the timeline clear. There was a call earlier today that the four of you were part of, at least. At that point, Kyle was like, well, according to the numbers or the court of public opinion, this is what's going to happen. You guys said you were going to talk about this. There's an issue with the money, and now you're on the show, and Kyle is not here.
Yes.
Because Kyle decided not to come.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now everybody knows what happened.
I have to do something. We're dealing with a lot of funds, and he only respects the person. He only respects for some reason.
Hang on.
And I need people to
hang on.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Someone else has asked for the link. Now, before I bring this person in, I just want to make sure that all of you are aware. We're going to give this person as much time as they need to say whatever it is they have to say. Okay. We are not going to interrupt. We are not going to steamroll. We're not going to do anything like that. In fact, I'm going to ask that all of you, except for this person, mute. Sure. So that if you have to scream and you have to get it out of your system, at least you won't be interrupting anybody. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, but obviously we need to be able to respond when they're done.
Okay. So I totally agree. I totally agree with that. But we're not going to make this a shit show. Well, it's already a shit show, just not a shit show in that way. There, I said it. Okay. God, I can't fucking talk today. English.exe has stopped working. Okay, so link has been sent. Now, when this other person comes in, everyone shuts the fuck up. So until that, Chess, finish your thought. And also, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I'm muted. I was just wanted to make sure that everybody was able to follow what had happened to get into the Hangout. So that way, people in the chat seemed confused that maybe we were doing this behind Kyle's back, or that maybe he wasn't invited, or something like that. And of course, you've got people coming in all of the time. So like, there's 600 people here now. So it's definitely, when we started, there was like 100, 200. So I just wanted to make sure the timeline was understood by the people who were coming in.
Sure. Let me go on record on this. I've learned a long time ago, you're never going to please everybody, right? There are going to be people that agree with your decisions and people that don't. Some people that think we shouldn't go live with this. Some people think that we should. I firmly believe that this was our only recourse.
I would say that at this point,
I have reached out to people, numerous people that I trust, and they all agree. Look, what else are you going to do at this point? So,
yeah, I would say that Kyle seems to have forced your hand on this point.
I agree.
That much of an option. Okay, I'm going to mute up.
All right, mute up, guys. Mute up. Shannon, we're getting some background noise from you.
Hi.
Hi. Do you have headphones?
Yeah, I have my headphones in.
Why is there? Is anyone else getting an echo? Or is it just me?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's just me. Anyway, Shannon, I told everyone here to shut the fuck up. The floor is all yours.
I'm like vibrating right now. I was on the phone with Kyle, who was really upset. As far as I know, he didn't get a link or an invite to go to this. This just happened, and now we're live. Without him here, or any of the other hosts, what's the reason for that, if not to control a narrative that could be dealt with amongst the people involved?
Do you want me to answer that question?
I can answer that. I prefer if I did.
Go ahead.
We invited Kyle. He basically said, if that's what you're going, if you want to go, if you're going to go have a discussion with this, screw you guys. And he removed us from the non sequitur show.
And I also said at the very beginning, middle, and as of right now, that Kyle is not blocked on anything. And if he wants the link, he can. But I'm not going to blow up his phone to get him into a hangout that he doesn't want to participate in the first place. That's not my place to make that assumption. Now, hang on, Steve. So, Shannon, my question to you, does Kyle want the link? And if so, I will give it to him right now.
He very well may. I got off the phone with him because he's upset. Because I didn't know this was happening either.
Mm-hmm. I tweeted it to you.
Until I haven't been on Twitter. I've been taking a break
but I did
from Twitter for the evening because this whole NIFB stuff is starting to, like, I'm exhausted.
Oh, shit. The thing in Orlando.
I'm utterly exhausted. But this seemed important.
Yeah.
Because people are slandering something that's important to me. I care about all of the people involved in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate the petty, who's going to go after who. Let's send our audiences after this person and get them all riled up. Bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not
what is happening right now. We're like, let's get an audience riled up so that we can send them after this person because they're on my side.
Steve?
Well, that's what Kyle seems to be influenced by.
He's not live right now.
He could have been. He could have been here.
No, but he's not.
Okay, hang on. Kyle.
But Shannon.
God damn it! I called you Kyle.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused.
And we're talking about money. We're having a public conversation about the money that happens in the channel.
Yes.
Shannon, let me try to.
I don't get for the record. I get $0.00 from non-sec, and I'm a co-host too. $0.00.
Yeah, but when Kyle said when he brings people on, they're not going to get anything out of it.
Does he not have any money set aside for you, Steve?
I have no idea. He says he does.
You don't?
No, I have no idea. I haven't seen the time. I haven't seen the financials. He won't show me the financials.
Oh, okay. Because if he sends you money right now, will that solve this problem?
No, because we agreed that
because I just had a conversation with you, and he said that he's been, or with him, I'm sorry. He said he's been holding on to that money, and I know the reason he's been holding on to that money, and I'm not going to release that reason publicly because it would affect you, Steve.
No, the reason why is because I have medical, and to get a lump sum would change that, which is fine. Okay, I know the reasons. I've expressed it. I've said this many times on air. But Shannon, here's the thing: the show was supposed to be in perpetuity, all proceeds in perpetuity, 50-50 down the line. He agreed with that. He told Reds that just a while ago. You know that, right?
I don't know what he said to Red's rhetoric. I'm not in private conversations.
Okay, well, you weren't here earlier. He has said this to us. Okay.
No, I was talking to Kyle because he's upset.
Kyle has said that when we started this channel, it was 50% in perpetuity. Now he wants to take me off that. He doesn't want me to have the proceeds in perpetuity. What he wants me to have is only for like 4 days a week that he's relegating me down to. That's not how it works. He wants to take all the Teespring. He wants to take all the Patreon. He wants to take everything else but the 4 days that I do and get all the money from that. I don't think that's fair. I think that's slimy. I think that's underhanded. And I don't understand why. And I asked him, please think about this, what you think you're doing, because you are taking money out of my pocket that we had on a handshake. And the fact that I told my daughter, you will have something to have because this channel, the proceeds of anything happened to me, go to you. And I have my daughter and my daughter's mom has Kyle's information of how to get that money in perpetuity. That's what I relied on. That's what he's trying to cut me out of, Shannon. How is that fair?
Are you on the show? Go ahead, Reds.
There was an original agreement, and the original agreement was that Steve McCrae would get 50%. Now, Steve McCrae has offered to come on more if Kyle thinks that he's not doing enough. And by the way, I can vouch for Steve because Steve has messaged me over and over and over again.
Yeah, no, you're right. Steve should get 50% of the work that I do, and 50% of the work that GE does, and 50% of the work that Katie does.
Shannon.
You're right.
Shannon.
No, you're right.
Shannon.
That's right. I have a son too, and I'm a single mom. So that's fair, right?
Shannon. Okay, I'm only going to say this one, Shannon. I love you with all my heart, but do not interrupt me. I told everyone here to not interrupt you. You will show everyone, including me, the same respect. Otherwise, you can get out. I'm now going to continue and finish what I was saying. So when it comes to this, there was an original agreement. That original agreement, Shannon, was not with you, but it was with Steve. And Kyle admitted to this. Kyle has said this. Throughout the time that Non Sequitur has been, that agreement has been, not followed by Kyle. That is objectively not fair. When you have an agreement with someone, you are to hold to it until you discuss it with them, not go behind their back and change it without them having any knowledge of it. That is shady business. And on top of that, Kyle has done a lot of work for the Non Sequitur show, but Steve McRae has been asking to do more. Steve McRae has been asking to come on more often. I even said that I will not do another Flat Earth Hangout on the Non Sequitur show unless Steve is co-hosting. In fact, that was one of the main things that I told Kyle tonight that got tonight's show canceled, because it would mean that Steve would have to be on there.
Right.
And I even have text messages, which I will not read, that also confirm what I'm saying. So when it comes to this, yes, you don't get any money for Non Sequitur show. You come on willing. I don't get any money from Non Sequitur, even though I'm willing. Fight the Flat Earth doesn't get any money from Non Sequitur, even though he's willing. The reason why that's okay is because the agreement wasn't made with us. The agreement wasn't made that, oh yeah, we're going to split the proceeds with whoever decides to show up that day. Just the idea that we would even pay a Flat Earther to show up would make me sick to my fucking stomach. And I would not support something like that. But that type of agreement was indeed made to Steve. And that agreement is something that even Kyle acknowledges. And Kyle even acknowledges that he has done shit without informing Steve. Shannon, do you think that is fair?
All right. So, I'm calming myself down because I really don't want to yell back and forth with you, Reds. I understand why you took tone with me because I did interrupt you, but I would like to think that you and I have enough mutual respect for each other that you know you can talk to me calmly and that I'll respect it.
I apologize for raising my voice.
It's fine. I understand. It's okay. This is a contentious situation. So I understand that.
Thank you for accepting my apology.
Absolutely. I'm not unreasonable. I'm just sometimes vivacious. So here's the thing. You said a couple of things there. And I don't know the full situation, but one of the things that you said was it should be that way until you have a discussion. And it sounds as though there was a discussion today, which is essentially a renegotiation of contract, and that money is in fact set aside.
I don't accept the renegotiation of contract.
It doesn't work that way if you're essentially employed by somebody.
He's not employing me. This is 50-50. How is he? He does. I don't work for Kyle. He doesn't work for me. This was a joint venture that we had.
Okay, so Red, your point is mute then. Like that's a moot point. All of the points you made are moot because essentially Steve is in charge and Steve decides.
No, that's not what was said.
Whatever said.
So, well, that's essentially what you said then. But you said you don't accept a severance of the business partnership with 50% of it given to you at the point of severance.
He's not involved in the business.
No, but I said a business partnership. That means that you're not partners in the business anymore. If you don't accept a severance of business partnership where he gives you 50% of the proceeds up to that point.
You don't just arbitrarily say, I from now on, I built this channel with somebody else and I'm going to get all the proceeds in perpetuity and kick the other person out. That's not how any business would work, Shannon.
But it's not simply just you, Steve. You need to somewhat acknowledge that other people have contributed to this.
Correct. But hang on, Steve.
They're not in the negotiation of the finances, Shannon. I asked Kyle, if you want to bring these people on because you're friends, I'm not going to stop you. But you're not going to give them anything on the
Steve, I'm your friend too. But what I really don't like is public litigation of things that could be happening personally and privately.
I think this needs to be public.
Wait a minute, Steve. Steve, I'm gonna hang on. No. Everyone gavel. I want to make sure that this goes, but I just want to highlight a key word that Steve was using, and that was perpetuity. That was the original agreement.
Yep.
Now, the original agreement in perpetuity means going forward. Am I wrong, or is am I losing my mind here? Which I think I am.
That is, in fact, what perpetuity means, but I have no idea what their original agreement was.
Well, the original agreement, and here's the thing. Kyle knows that we have this. Kyle even said that's perfectly fine. You can have it. It was said in the original. There is a recorded conversation about this, Shannon, which I am strictly not going to play here because fuck that. However, Shannon, if you want this, and of course with Kyle's blessing, we will give you that recording so you can listen to it in full, no cuts, and you can hear Kyle accept that that was the original agreement, and that agreement was changed long before this discussion ever took place. And by the way, the discussion that happened with Kyle previously was not to renegotiate terms. It was to ask Kyle why he was doing things behind Steve's back.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, but Shannon could. I mean, it doesn't need to do that. All Shannon has to do is, Kyle's not going to lie about it. Shannon has to say, "Did you agree to Steve for all proceeds would be 50-50 in perpetuity?" Kyle's going to say yes.
Yeah. Also, Chess, go ahead.
Before you do, Chess, I just wanted to point out, you had mentioned, Shannon, that you'd said, "Oh, this is something that's just happened, and then suddenly it's gone public." And I want to point out that that's not the case. Behind the scenes, this has been being dealt with for several months, and very patiently, with no progress, and actually just the situation worsening. And that's why it's come to this point.
What do you mean with no progress and the situation worsening? Those are very vague, ambiguous statements that allow you to set up a groundwork without having to be specific.
By saying that, it means there has been no progression to a mutual resolution.
Yeah. And there has been an attempt.
There was a conflict that wasn't able to be resolved.
Yes.
That's correct.
So there was a conflict, it wasn't able to be resolved, and it led to an end in a partnership.
Well, we don't know.
And because that conflict wasn't able to be resolved, and it led to an end in a partnership.
Well, hang on, guys. Hang on, guys. Do not interrupt Shannon, please.
All right.
Do not interrupt Shannon. And I'm going to give Shannon the floor. I want none of you guys to interrupt her. And then after that, I want Chess to go. So, Shannon, you have the floor. Sorry for the interruption.
That's fine. I appreciate that. It sounds to me like you're saying that there was conflict, and that conflict wasn't able to be resolved, and it led to an end in a partnership. And as a result of that partnership ending, Kyle has said, I have 50% of the money up until this point, as I promised you. I will give you that 50% of the money. Steve, because of his situation with getting government assistance, isn't able to accept it in a lump sum. Thus, he won't accept it in a lump sum. I'm sure that they could work something out there where he can get it in increments instead. Because Kyle would have had to claim tax on that money as he's holding it as well. So he would have paid tax on that up until this point. And then now that partnership is dissolved. No. But because that partnership is dissolved, there was an original agreement before the channel got to the point that it is now, and that conflict took place. And Steve would like money from the channel in perpetuity, because prior to this conflict taking place, when the channel just started, when it was originally just a podcast, they had agreed to 50-50 in perpetuity. And thus Kyle should be giving him money in perpetuity, whether Steve is or is not involved, just giving him money.
All right, Chess, you have the floor.
So back to kind of what we were discussing with where the show is going, because I think this is going to be going in circles for a little bit. So I just kind of want to shift gears slightly to something that Shannon had said earlier about having other people being brought onto the show. Like Shannon's involved now, and GE's involved now, and they're without a crystal ball, and everybody's involved now. So the problem with that is that none of you guys, and this is not a slight on you or anything, were involved in the contract or any kind of contract with the show. Had you guys wanted to be involved monetarily, then there needed to be an agreement and a discussion made between you guys, who would be at that point then employees of Non Sequitur, which would then need to be discussed with the producers of the show, which would include Steve and Kyle. If Kyle just brings you on alone, that's not you getting anything from Non Sequitur, because Non Sequitur is still both of them.
Can I respond to that?
Sure you can, but
Okay.
first I'm going to say something else because I want to make sure that this point isn't missed. You cannot dissolve a company or a partnership or whatever the case may be without the other person agreeing to it. Because otherwise it's like, hey, I don't like you anymore for whatever reason. I want to kick you out of the company. I'll pay you up until this point, and then you get the hell out of Dodge. That's not how any of this works. One person that owns 50% cannot dissolve a partnership without the second party agreeing. That's something Thomas Miller said in a live chat, and I completely agree. What Kyle seems to be doing is basically forcefully taking over command of the entire non sequitur, even though it was agreed to be 50-50 at the very beginning in perpetuity. So basically, Kyle made this decision without consulting Steve or David for that matter, went along with it. And when we got to Kyle, when we asked Kyle about this, his responses were not very good. Let me just say that. He even admitted to some of the things that we were calling him out on. And he also admitted to all the things that Steve is saying was the original agreement. That original agreement was not with us. So if that is the case, and if Kyle felt as though he was overwhelmed and wanted Steve to do more of the heavy lifting of the show, we were just in a call not too long ago where Steve offered to do just that. If Steve had to work harder to quote earn his 50% as per the original agreement, he would have done it because Steve is not a dick like that. He's a dick in other ways, but not like that. I would never
screw anybody over financially, ever.
So with that being said, Steve, I want you to talk, and then we're going to bring it back to Shannon.
Yeah, people ask me.
I have my hand raised.
I started the Non Sequitur YouTube channel. Kyle admitted that was my channel. I turned it over to him. I gave him primary, which means I relinquished control it to him because he knew SEO, and he said he would know how to do the ranking, right? So I gave that up to him. I think that he should give it back to me. If he wants to dissolve the partnership, have him give him back the channel. He's more than capable of starting a new channel. He has got the talent to do it. And then I told him, and Red backed me up on this. Did I tell him in perpetuity from the Non Sequitur show, he would get 50% from all proceeds, and I'd make sure that he got it in forever. So he'd have his own channel, like I have my channel, and he would still get 50% from everything that the Non Sequitur show channel made. If that's what he wants to do. But he can't just arbitrarily say, hey, I'm taking you out of all this, and I'm taking over all the money from here on out that we helped build a channel for. That's not how anything works.
In short, you wouldn't accept a forced payout. Yes.
Right.
And you also said that if Kyle was feeling overwhelmed, that you could take over for a few, and right. Kyle would still get his 50% regardless if he was working on it or not. You did say that. Yes.
Yeah, I have had somebody actually offered me. They said, hey, Steve, I can make the thumbs for you if you want. If Kyle wants to take some time off because he's got some stuff going on that you know about, Shannon, I'm sure, he's more than welcome to.
Yes.
Yeah, we've offered that. That's why I haven't dealt with this. That's why I haven't said anything for quite a while. But when it's come to the point where he's having to basically not communicate with me and do something like this to try to influence me, to try to not have me get what I'm due for in perpetuity, I have to take matters into my own hands. I have to do something. I've been very patient for several months now. Several months, Shannon. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's nothing else I can do. And by the way, do you agree, Shannon? And please be honest. You're the most honest people I know, right?
So I'll be honest.
Yeah.
You may not like it, but I'll be honest.
That's fine. Do you think, okay, as a partner, back in 2017 to now, when I've asked for financial records, should I have not been provided them almost immediately?
If you were asked for financial records, you should have been provided them. Yes.
And do you think that I should have been removed from Patreon? Because I believe I thought I started the Patreon too, but I'm not positive. I think he just started his Twitter, but I was moved from Patreon months ago. I was moved a month ago.
You're gone.
From Non Sequitur access. Now I'm moved completely. He took me off the Twitter months ago. This has not been something that has happened recently. These are something that's progressive. Months ago, this has been going on, Shannon. And I've continued to ask for financials, and I've not gotten any.
So there's much more. You cut out for me. It could be my phone is the reason that you cut out.
Repeat, Steve.
I said that it's been months ago. He removed my access to the Patreon. Right, so I can't even tell what a Patreon was. He removed my access from the Twitter. This is again months ago. He removed my access from the Non Sequitur show about a month ago. David and I have been asking him what's going on. He said he told me it's for SEO reasons. That's what he told me. That's what he told David. That's what he told other people. I don't think I'm sorry, but I don't think I could believe that now, because
that could be the case. I mean, I'm not going to speculate on what his reasons were for that. If he gave you reasons, those could be valid reasons.
It could be. It could be. However, Dave got his access back within days. I never did. And Dave kept reminding him to do it, and he would, and nothing. So this has been going on for quite some time.
When it's my turn, I'm going to say some things that are maybe hard for you to hear, but I say them as your friend. So let me know when you're done.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
All right. Everyone, please mute. Shannon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Rez. Okay, Steve. So there are some things that I think you need to understand and potentially accept. One of those things is the fact that it has become, for me, I know this personally, difficult for me to book guests on Non Sequitur on the show that Kyle and I host that you are not even present for, because the show is affiliated with you and you have engaged in some very, 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 very public, very contentious arguments that have affected people. So I'm not going to list the names of some of the people that I had a difficult time booking, but there are people that have flat out refused to come on the show because that show is affiliated with Steve McRae. I myself have taken slings and arrows because you are a friend of mine, and I refused to throw you under the bus or throw Non-Sec under the bus, despite me ardently disagreeing with the things that you say sometimes, because of the manner in which you can conduct yourself sometimes in public and the arguments that you choose to engage in. And that is a direct detriment to booking guests on and garnering viewers for the show.
Okay. My turn, and Shannon, this is going to be very hard for you to hear. It's not your show. It's not for your job to book anybody. The bookings were done by me and Kyle. I have people that wouldn't come on because of other guests that are on Non Sequitur show. I have people that won't come on, and I'm not going to say names, because of people that Kyle on has co-host. Okay. I have a very difficult time booking people as well. Okay. And I have people that I have booked that want to come on that Kyle says, no, we're taking a different direction. I never responded to them. It's not your job to get books. You have your show on your channel, right? That you simulcast, that Dave does, simulcast to the Non Sequitur show. That's your show that has been simulcast. You can choose not to simulcast it to the Non Sequitur show. That's not the Non Sequitur show. That is your Q&A show on the Non Sequitur show channel.
Absolutely.
Let me finish. You booking guest is for your show. And if David or Kyle wants to put it on the Non Sequitur show, that's fine. But you cannot use that as an excuse. How I am with certain people that don't get along with me, right? Because I have detractors. That's a fucked up reason, Shannon. I love you to death, but what you just said is absolute bullshit. I mean, let's be honest here, Shannon. You are not the one who's booking for Non Sequitur. You're booking for your own channel.
Right. Yeah. No, Steve, I was using myself as an example because I could give a personal story, but it's not simply me. Like, you know that there's been people that have publicly said, I will never.
And I don't will never. Channel, so what?
Steve.
But I understand that you don't want those people on the channel, and that your attitude is, so what? Fuck them. They're stupid. They can fuck off. I got in an argument with them. They acted like an asshole. They were stupid. They were idiots. I was right. They were wrong. They can go fuck themselves. That I'm Steve McRae. But that's not necessarily conducive to having a successful show when you want to have people with contrary opinions or people that are publicly accessible on to draw an audience. And when that's what you do, if you consistently alienate people who are public figures or alienate subsections of people from you individually, Steve, I know this is hard to hear.
No, it's wrong, Shannon.
No, hang on, Steve. Do not say another word until Shannon is done, and then afterwards, Chess is going to talk.
Steve, I understand. I really do. And I've been blocked by chains and chains and chains of people because I said Steve McRae is my friend. And I will still say after today that Steve McRae is my friend. But because you are my friend, I'm telling you the truth, Steve. That is a fact of the matter. Those things happen. And that can be a detriment. And I don't know what Kyle's motivations are. I don't know the background of everything that happened. But I know that I can give you a list of people who will never appear on that show. And it's not a short list because they have gotten in an argument with you.
All right. Chess, you have the floor.
Cool. So there's a couple things that I want to address real quick about what Shannon's saying. And I'm apologize if this sounds a little harsh. It's not meant to be, but all of this is emotional argument. Every single bit of what you've said has been an emotional argument. If people don't want to come on the show because of Steve, fine. I understand what you're saying about that. People don't want to come on the show, and that makes for bad PR, or it doesn't make for a good show. But you know what doesn't make for a good show? Flat Earthers not showing up on the show every single time. Them saying they're coming and then they're not coming and the show just drops. The show being inconsistent, having worse quality of guests. And that is what is consistently, factually, what has been happening. And I'm really sorry that people aren't going to be friends with you or are going to block you on Twitter. Who gives a shit about Twitter? Mm-hmm. Thirdly, I want to point out this real quick. And I do not mean to assume, I'm not going to assume what you're trying to do. But if you're simulcasting your own show on Non Sequitur, what you're doing is you're using the Non Sequitur name to boost yourself. Period. That is it. End of the line. I'm done.
All right. And one more thing, guys. I'm going to increase the slow mode to 60 seconds because holy fucking shit. And secondly, I'll go ahead and respond to something here. A lot of people have gotten into arguments with Steve McRae and they don't like him. I can name a few, but I'm not going to. But I'll
be in the room here.
Yeah. But
hi, Sean.
Some of us are fighting right now.
Yeah, but
the
thing is that Steve McRae does when Steve McRae does talk, he does something that not a lot of people actually do. He backs it up. He's not shit talking for the joy of shit talking. When he says that someone is wrong, 9 times out of 10, they're actually wrong. I'll give you know what? Fuck it. I am going to say a name. Aaron Raw. Aaron Raw does not want to come on because Steve McRae disagreed with Aaron Raw, because Steve McRae made a blog post about it. But yet, if you read that exact same blog post at the very top, it says, I respect Aaron Raw for what he does. He's an incredible individual. He's always fun to talk to. Basically, how much ass does Steve have to kiss before starting to disagree with someone? That seems like a almost unobtainable standard. And here's the thing. Not even Kyle goes to that standard. Not even Mr. Atheist goes to that standard. I have seen the messages. Hell, I have got them, and I'm not Non Sequitur. People are fucking furious whenever Mr. Atheist goes on there. Or not everyone, but just a select number of people. Some people are fucking furious that Mr. Atheist goes on. Does that mean that Mr. Atheist should be kicked off the Non-Sec? There's a few people who have spoken very shitty about you, Shannon. I, of course, disagree with them. And I, of course, would not support any attempt of booting you off on the Non Sequitur show. But here's the thing. When I see Steve McRae disagreeing with someone, he is very firm and very direct, and sometimes that gets misinterpreted as disrespect. And the reason why Steve McRae eventually goes down to the road of, well, then fuck these people, is because quite literally these people do not have very thick skin. But all that being said, and whether or not I'm wrong, is entirely irrelevant. At the end of the day, whether Steve McRae participates or not, there was still an original agreement. Steve McRae is offering to make that agreement. In fact, I have tried to force the issue by saying I will only go on Non-Sec when Steve McRae is there. You know, Gala's Engineer is more than welcome to come on. You're more than welcome to come on. I want 5 moderators in my Flat Earth discussions on Non-Sec. I want all of you guys there at the exact same time. But we shouldn't be penalizing Steve when other people, quite frankly, do not want to get their head out of their ass. And that's what I'm seeing right here. I see Kyle being pressured into making this decision. I don't think if that influence was there, Kyle would have come to the same conclusion that he is right now.
I agree.
I see that as very irresponsible. I see that as very dangerous, and sets a very dangerous precedent as well. Basically, it's basically like if you make an agreement with Kyle, the sway of public opinion determines whether or not that agreement will be honored. That is not how this is supposed to work at all. Period. It just can't, because if that's the way that Kyle wants this to work, I think a lot of people will be in agreement with me when I say that is fucked up and says a lot more about Kyle than it does about Steve McRae. Shannon, you have the floor, and then Steve, you can respond.
Sean had his hand up, actually.
Oh shit! Go ahead.
Okay. I've been very, very quiet for this whole thing. I had my little bit at the early on, just trying to fact find. The simple thing that this all cuts down to, and I've heard the appeals to authority or the appeals to emotion that have been going on here. This all boils down to that when the channel was set up, they had a 50-50 agreement. In a 50-50 agreement, it is not legal for one person to arbitrarily remove the other 50-50 partner. It cannot be done. Kyle has done something very unethical here, and it is actually against the law. So I'm not going by any appeals to emotion. I'm not going to say Steve's an asshole, because Steve can be an asshole. I love him for it. But it doesn't gloss over the fact that Kyle has done something very, very unethical here. He needs to buy Steve out. That is what I think should be done. If you want Steve to be gone, he should make him an offer to buy him out, period.
And by the way, that the price in which it's agreed has to be agreed by Steve. Basically, you can't tell. You have to come to an actual negotiation, an actual agreement, and Steve has to be the one to sign off on it. Otherwise, it's going to have to basically go to court at that point. Then a judge will decide from there.
I know. What I would like to see happen is this. I think non sequitur is salvageable. I think Kyle's going through a lot of stuff right now, and I just don't think he's thinking too clearly. I don't want to throw him under the bus. He's always been honorable to me. I think what he's done the last month is shady. Don't get me wrong. But I think there's reasons probably for it. I think people are influencing him, and I personally believe that he is influenced by people. And unlike myself, I say what I want, when I want, to whom I want, and I don't care about popular opinion as much as Kyle does. I am who I am. That's why I am somewhat popular on my channel, and that's why I do what I do on the Non Sequitur Show. My whole thing was, when we started this, he told me, Steve, I want you, and this is his words, to be yourself. He knew what he was getting himself into. He knew that I was going to go on that show, and I was going to do what I did on my own channel. Say what I want to say, to who I want to say it, and let's talk about it. But when you have people like Arn, who I have the utmost respect for, I love Arn, but we all know, but anybody who knows in philosophy knows, and Shannon even agree with me, that he's not really a philosophically minded person. And they probably should listen to me on the things I tell him when it comes to these things, right? But he just doesn't want to do it, and he doesn't want to have those discussions. Okay, fine. If he doesn't want to come on the Non Sequitur Show because of that, that's his thing. Doesn't change the fact that I am correct, that I can cite it. It doesn't change the fact that I'm going to stop telling people that you're putting out misinformation. That's what I was hired originally to do when we formulated this thing. I don't want to say hired because he didn't hire me, but this is what our agreement was. Now he's asking me, now people are saying, oh, well, Steve's doesn't get along with a few people. Yes, the people that he brought in, right? And not all of them. People think I have a lot more issues with people than I do. I really don't. None of this is personal to me, right? I got Mr. Atheist in the audience. I got no problem with Jimmy. I really don't. I don't really watch his stuff, but I like the whole pumpkin thing. I'm behind him 100%. I put a pumpkin on my name. I think the whole fucking shit with the NIFB pieces of fucking trash, I think they're all fucking pieces of crap. And I think that if they fall out the flat earth, I'd be just fine with that, right? So we probably agree on a lot of things than what we don't agree on. So this the whole narrative of appeal to emotions and appeal to personality, that's not my shtick. My shtick is promote facts, science, and have conversations. And some people can deal with it, some people don't. Shannon, you've had numerous great conversations on my channel. You had 10 of them. You started on my channel. Let's talk about you with Shannon Q. You agree.
I did.
I think that having conversations are great, right? We should have them.
Yes.
Right? But
okay, all right, Steve.
10 seconds. But what Sean said is,
just wrap it up.
What Sean said is what it is. Kyle's not thinking very clearly. When you're taking money out of my back pocket that I rely on, the fact that this channel is going to be built up and I have something in perpetuity when it hits 30,000 subs, 40,000 subs, 50,000 subs, 1 million subs, which we still can do, that is because we started this channel together. I think it's salvageable. I think that if people got a hold of Kyle, Shannon, you're probably the best, and just talk about it. I'm not ready to dissolve anything. I want to work this out with Kyle. And I think that if we did, it'd be bigger, stronger, and better. Because if Kyle and I both agreed on it and we both resolved this, then all the 800 people watching that now would go, holy shit, this is how you resolve something.
I'm going to go ahead and give Shannon the floor to respond, and then after that, I'm going to let Nicholas, who just joined us, have a word. Shannon, you have the floor. And by the way, everyone else mute.
All right. There's a lot to address. So first, I'm going to cover what is it Cheshire? Cheshire? I'm so sorry. I'm not familiar with you.
Nope, you got it. That's right. It's all good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to address some of the things that she said. Pardon me. Yes, it is to a certain degree an appeal to emotion, but it's a pragmatic one. And anybody who knows, well, not everybody here would know me, so I understand what you're saying, that my reference, to Twitter disputes and Facebook disputes and YouTube disputes seems as though it's an appeal to emotion. And the reason it's a pragmatic one is from a business standpoint. I'm fairly business and PR minded because that's kind of what I do in my career. So when you look at it from that standpoint, when you look at it from a standpoint of building a brand, those things are important to be incorporated. When you look at it from a purely logical perspective, when you're assessing an argument for its truth or validity, then certainly an emotional appeal doesn't really matter and it doesn't make sense. But when you're looking at it from a psychological perspective and you're looking at the choices that people make and you're looking at the investments that people make towards the future, then their emotional engagement is something that's not only valid, but important to consider. So that's the reason that I take it into consideration. And you also mentioned that I was worried about whether or not people blocked me. And oh my goodness, I'm not.
wait, you got a block list now?
Yeah, Steve
Okay.
knows that I'm not.
Okay.
Steve knows that I'm not
You should
concerned
say-
about
you
whether or
should
not
say
somebody
mom.
blocks.
You are, not at all.
We have similar block lists, in fact,
Yeah,
Steve and I.
you would agree,
They
you would
overlap significantly.
Raise your hand if you're part of the Steve Chimes block list. Raise your hand.
No, actually, Steve said no. Actually, I swear to God, he had me blocked, and now I'm not blocked on him for some strange reason. But there are certain people that I think Shannon and I both agree we're better off having them block us. I'm okay.
Oh yeah, no, life's much
Yes,
more
I'm
peaceful
fine
with the
with
people that have blocked me. I'm like, good. That's
As
much
far
more
as, like,
relaxing.
what you're saying, and I do understand that, but you know what? We have a controversial show, and that's what people watch,
I understand.
right? So because
I
it's-
had more things to say,
drama,
but okay.
because there's drama, that you know what? I think more people watch because of that than if I didn't bring that to the table. I honestly believe that. I really do.
All right, let's let Shannon back in.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's all right. I said delightful things that people wanted to engage in. I understand that. So here's the thing. I like resolutions. Now, having a back and forth drama battle that buries non-sec isn't fantastic for you, Steve, and it's not fantastic for non-sec. And I am, oh my gosh, who isn't done being in the crossfire of one of these nonsense battles? Like, if you and Kyle can come to an agreement, if you don't feel, or Kyle doesn't feel as though it's a good business arrangement to work together anymore, I don't know that in perpetuity is reasonable if you're not continuing to be involved. But it's my understanding that Kyle said if you had interest in a show like once a week or something, you could still be involved and you could have monetary involvement, and that he would be happy to contribute to after shows on your channel and throw after shows to your channel, and I'd be happy to be involved in those and bolster your own channel, and that way you're getting 100% of what happens on your channel, and we can all work together to help build up your channel. Like, is that a successful outcome?
No,
is the best outcome of this situation people slinging back and forth towards each other until non-sec is buried and you are buried and you both go into obscurity?
Well, I'm not going to go into obscurity. I have my own channel.
You know what I mean, though, until you're like, you get buried in social media drama and people don't know the whole story. They only know the portions of the story they see and the segments of the story that they're exposed to. why can't you come to that sort of a resolution? If you feel as though, or both of you feel as though there's a dissolution of the relationship, and he's willing to give you 50% of the proceeds up to thus far, and he's also willing to have you on every once in a while and give you 50% of that, and he's willing to throw more subs to and after shows and whatnot to your channel to embolden you that way, because in perpetuity.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, certainly. There was one other thing that Cheshire mentioned, and that was oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. It was about oh my goodness, there was a couple things. There was me using the non-sec to get views on my channel.
Sorry,
which,
just to clarify, so you know what I had said. I had said that
please.
You're using the when you're the thing is that the group of you were coming on to non sequitur. You weren't non sequitur, right? The owners.
That's what it was.
Yeah. Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
Do you want me to keep going? Or
Yes. No, I feel like I have it now. Thank you. I appreciate you clarifying. And you're absolutely right. And I'm in a weird situation. I'm not, I guess, like everybody else. Like, for example, my Patreon, I only charge patrons for edited videos, which is 1/4 of what I do. I spend most of my time essentially volunteering my time as an activist and going and appearing on other people's channels and supporting other people's channels. So I'm not, this isn't my career. I have a career. So it's not fair for me to compare myself to other people. And I understand that, because this isn't my primary source of income, or even a substantial source of income for me.
Hey,
so,
Shannon, yeah, I hate to interrupt you. I'm just going to address something in chat real quick. Just hold on to your thought. Do not let it go. I just want people to know, stop asking me to get GE in here. I did send him to link. He declined. Okay. That's his choice to make, and I respect his choice. I'm not going to force him to come into a hangout that he doesn't want to participate in. Guys in the live chat, please stop asking me. He has been given the link. He declined. That's his choice. I'm going to respect it. All right, Shannon.
He's having I know for a fact that he's having a low right now too. So health-wise, I'm not sure that this would be beneficial for him. He's diabetic, so. I was talking to him earlier.
Are you done, Shannon, or did you want to continue with Cheshire?
Yeah, you know what?
Calling people out.
No, hang on. After all this is done, we're going to get Nicholas in here. So
okay,
Shannon,
I'm actually, unless if there's something else somebody wants to say to me, my primary point is that I want to see a positive resolution for this, not a shit-slinging resolution. And I think that there is a path to that if people are open to it. So it's just a matter of whether or not people are open to a path to a positive resolution, as opposed to open to a path to, let's just have a firestorm and fight with each other resolution. I mean, if that's where the road everybody's going to go down, then fine. I'm not going to be a party to it. I'm going to continue co-hosting non-sec. I'll still continue to be a friend with Steve, but I think that better can happen. I think that we can demonstrate better. If we choose to do the opposite, then it is what it is. So if anybody has anything else to address directly to me, please let me know. If not, I'm going to go to bed, because I have a press release to edit, and I have a bunch of emails to answer about this NIFB stuff, and I have a job.
Yeah. And I can understand that. I'm going to ask you to stay on, because after Nicholas is done, Sean had his hand raised. So Sean, I'm going to ask you, hold on to your thought. Do not lose it. And Nicholas, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Everyone can hear me? Yeah, it looks like I've got sound. Thank you. Yeah, obviously I have reasonably limited information on all of this, so I'm going to go sort of with the best that I've got and what I can sort of extrapolate from that. Nobody wants to see non-sec end. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. So I think that would be absolutely tragic for all involved. Having said that, if there were deals in place at the founding of non-sec, those have to be respected, and until both parties are satisfied in one way or another. And unfortunately, bad things do happen, and sometimes we don't get the best outcome. But if that deal included, as I understand it to have included, that Steve gets 50%, then that's the deal until Steve decides otherwise. And while nobody would want to see the show end, obviously Steve would not want to allow a show which by the way, there's the Steve that gets into significant trouble on Facebook and Twitter, and there's the Steve that hosts the show. And that Steve that has been on the show, it seems to me, and I may be wrong, but when Aaron comes on the show, he enjoys himself, and Steve is a huge part of that. And while they may have disputes outside, and that is perhaps influencing the show, Steve has also been a huge cornerstone of that show's success. So to say that he may be negatively impacting it outside, that may well be true. But he's also had a phenomenal impact inside the show, and whether or not they can come to some arrangement or find some way of discussing, I don't know. But to suggest that simply because he maybe has been having a significantly negative impact, that show has a phenomenal number of subs, and I think it would be impossible to make the claim that Steve has not been a huge part of that. So the notion that because now...
I didn't make that claim, for the record.
Thank you. And I'm certainly not suggesting you made that claim. I would not. I'm just offering that for consideration of what his role would be in the future, and recognizing that he has been a huge part of where that show is now, and I would have a very hard time believing that there couldn't be a way that it couldn't continue in the future, and I certainly hope that's the case. Anyways, I think that's about all I had wanted to say. I think that at the end of the day, if any of us were in a situation where we felt we were being cut out, we would fight like hell to be respected as the equals that we were going into it. And I think without a recognition there, I would have a hard time seeing how the show could be salvaged. That would be my number one goal. But
I can't forget David. David's been integral in the show. And by the way, the VMix was bought for him. He's supposed to have access to that so he can do other shows. And I don't know if he even has dominion over that any longer.
We're gonna go over that in a bit, but Sean Hufford has had his hand raised. I'm going to give him the floor to address Shannon. Sean Hufford, you have the floor. Everyone else, please mute your microphones.
Now, I'm going to apologize because this is probably going to come out in a very bad way, Shannon, but I do hold you in a lot of respect. I've loved the shows that I've watched of yours. But throughout this last 15, 20 minutes, you've been comparing Non-Sec versus Steve. And according to their original agreement, again, it was a 50-50 partnership. If you're going to make the comparison between two parties, it can't be Non-Sec versus Steve. Steve is 50% of Non-Sec. You would have to say it's Steve versus Kyle at that point. To go with the whole Non-Sec versus Steve, you are literally swaying the audience that trying to say that Non-Sec is Kyle's baby. It is not. It is a 50-50 partnership. And as a 50-50 partnership, both parties have to agree to a dissolution. That hasn't been done. He was arbitrarily removed by a 50% partner. You will never see that in the business world because it's illegal to do. There has to be a mutual agreement involved there. That's all I got to say. I mean, that's what it comes down to. There's no argument. There's no appeal to emotion. There's no appeal to popularity at that point. This is simply objective fact. That's all that can be said.
All right, Steve. I'm going to get to you in a second, but Shannon, I want to give you the floor to respond if you want to, and then after that, if you want to go to bed, that's fine, or stay. I'm not dictating either way, but you have the floor either way.
God, you have no idea how much I just want to go to bed forever and ever.
I was in bed before I got called in.
Honest to God.
Look at me. Isn't it lovely? This is my bed.
It is lovely, Cheshire. That's all I want to do is just sleep. What I really want to do is just go 3 hours of my life without something in the YouTube universe exploding, but that's
welcome to the internet. It's the internet. Come on,
you're in the wrong.
You know where you're at,
right? Yeah, I sure as fuck am. This is why I drink. I'm not drinking right now. That's a constant mistake I make is not drinking. Right?
It's always a problem when you're not drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, right? I operate better. I'm so much happier. But okay, to address what Sean said. Now, if I said non-sec versus Steve, that was probably inadvertent. And one of the reasons is because in the context of this conversation, he's been removed from that show. So in reference to it, I was referencing that show. So perhaps you can understand, especially, appeal to emotion and whatnot.
It's okay.
I'm just referencing the situation. It wasn't an intent to build a narrative, but I appreciate you because I fucking hate narrative building. I would rather, I'm more up for truth telling and pragmatism. So I can appreciate you building on that. When you reference contracts, I can understand that. However, contracts do dissolve. And my overall point, which I referenced earlier, is, and I've said this a million times, I'm all about goals aligning with intentions. Now, if your goal, Steve, in this situation is to bury, and I'm going to say non-sec, but you can interchange that with Kyle if you'd like. If your goal is to bury that and to make it so that it's no longer viable because this situation to you seems as though, or is in fact, not something that is fair or equitable, then you will take whatever path you choose. However, I believe that there is a different path. There is a path of negotiation. There is a path where you don't build a public narrative where we sling arrows at one another and have discussions about who's the least fair to who. And you can actually have conversations in the background that lead to resolutions instead. Now, non-sec is something that's important to me. Steve, if it wasn't for Steve, I never would have met Paul. And I kind of like him. I think he's neat.
You guys are cute together.
Yeah, we're all right. If it wasn't for Steve, yeah, like Steve and Paul are one of the reasons that I have a YouTube channel and people know who I am now. I recognize that and I respect
Get him to
that.
stop mentioning Star Wars, please.
Oh God,
Yeah,
hang on. I have
Never sacrilege.
I have to address something in the live
Oh
chat.
God damn it! I'm never gonna go to bed or finish a sentence.
Well, you have every right to call me out on my hypocrisy.
Yeah, do I get to yell at you like you yelled at me? You shut the fuck up while I'm talking, or I'll mute you or do whatever. You can leave, or it's your channel. You probably can't.
You know what? That's actually perfectly fair, Shannon. You again have the floor.
Don't teach Shannon how to
That's how
snipe.
me and Reds talk to each other in private.
That's how me and Reds talk to each other.
Yeah, real quick, Shannon. I know you do gotta go to bed, and Red's on addressing, but that's not my goal. I don't know where you get any of that from. My goal is twofold. One, I just want what the provisional promise was in perpetuity, and two, I think we can salvage non-sec and go back to our original agreement. I could have more days a week if he wants. That's no big deal. But we're talking about what Sean said. That is core. That is non-negotiable. That's money out of my pocket, and that I think he's just not thinking too clearly on. So.
Okay.
Basically, everyone is saying that what Kyle is doing is not only unethical but illegal. They're right. It is unethical and it's illegal. I also wanted to go against Casey in the chat here and say, well, you said that Steve can back up what he said. Well, he was wrong about me calling an engineer. I usually don't like to do this, but I did say something not too long ago. Back on May 22nd, where I said, okay, you all kiss and make up. GE, Steve is not sexist. Steve, she is an engineer. I was saying that Steve can back up his bullshit when it comes to when in context of during his discussion with Aaron Raw and all the other people who he's had more public, like blog post related disagreements with. That's where I was going with this. Sorry that wasn't clear, but if I don't agree with Steve, I am the first to say, hey, I don't agree with him on there. But I also know this for a fact. Steve McRae did not say anything that he said about you or about his opinion of whatever word you're using to describe yourself out of hatred or from a place of sexism. That's something I disagree with you on, and I will always disagree with you on. And that's the thing I wanted to respond to.
And I have explained to you my reasoning behind all that because you were decent enough.
Not fucking important.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway,
Okay.
Shannon, thank you
Oh
so much for fucking being here.
Thank you, Shannon.
Now do me a favor and go to bed. Go to bed.
This was my very
now
first
I have
interaction with
73 more things to say.
I'm so happy this was my very first interaction with Shannon. This is clearly the best place to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm not gonna address the Steve and Casey thing because that is going to derail this conversation.
Yep.
Absolutely. I have things to say, and I can say them to Steve later.
I'm going to bed. No, I'll say them in an hour.
No, well, things keep happening, and for the record, I was in the midst of saying things, and then I was rudely interrupted by. But yeah. It's okay, Red. We're good.
We're good. Okay.
And your in perpetuity thing, Steve. Let's talk in hypotheticals. Let's say that you and Kyle essentially have irreconcilable differences at this point. Do you feel it's reasonable for you to have residuals 50% of non sequitur?
Yes.
Going forward.
Yes.
Why is that reasonable?
Because one, I built the
without you having a contribution. Sure. Why is that reasonable?
Because I want to have contributions to the channel. I helped build the channel in order to have residuals. So I factor this in, going, look at year from now, 2 from now, we're planning ahead. Me and him, we're constantly looking. We're going to make 10,000, 20,000. We're going to be at 30,000 subs. This is what, we're constantly planning this. I knew what the residuals was going to be. That was something that was planned for. One person cannot arbitrarily take that away from another person. Now, if he, again, I told him, if he wants to start another channel, why don't he do that and then build up another channel, and he can get 50% without doing shit from the non sequitur channel, if it is irreconcilable, which I don't think it is. I'm willing to work on it. I'm willing to fix it.
Can you clarify what in contract law makes it illegal to sever a contract?
Because then in order to do that, you have to dissolve the business, and to dissolve the business, you'd have to delete the YouTube channel.
You don't actually have to dissolve a bit.
Yes, you do.
In a 50-50,
you absolutely have to.
If you have equal shares, right, then there's no one who has legal power over.
No, you just buy out. You just buy out at the point of time for what it's worth at the time.
That's only if both people agree.
Okay. Well, how about this? Shannon, what if Steve wanted to buy Kyle out?
Oh,
would that be fair?
If Steve wanted to buy Kyle. That's it.
Yeah. What would Kyle's price be? I'm curious.
I would say that it would probably be 50% of the worth of the channel up till this far.
Okay. Is he willing to accept that?
That would be a foolish choice.
That's what we already agree with. I mean, we already have that. Although, where that is, I don't know. But up to so far, that's our.
And then Steve would have to work going forward to because I may still contribute, but I doubt that KC would still co-host, or Katie would still co-host, or GE would still co-host. Reds, you'd probably still go on. So you would have to find another co-host.
No,
and you would have to find all of your own guests,
which is fine.
You would have to build all of that on non-sequitur going forward.
The first year and a half, I booked nearly everybody.
Also, keep in mind that Steve and Kyle weren't the only ones working at the show in the beginning either.
Yeah, there was Bullinator, there was McGinnis.
Bull, who we need to talk about, by the way, because who cares about Steve?
McGinnis added a lot too.
I'm aware, but you made the argument earlier that I agreed to go in without a payout, but now you're making the argument that there was other people there. So it seems a little bit inconsistent.
No. Those other people were not part of owning the channel.
Right.
I'm not part of owning the channel either, but you're making the argument that they should be included and incorporated in the consideration now.
Nope, that's not what I said. What I'm saying is, compared to you're saying that all these people won't come along, right? And he'll have to build up the show without those people, right? So Kyle and Steve, when they built the show initially, weren't to just Kyle and Steve. I'm making the comparison that in doing this, Kyle is also pulling out his producers. So he's also going to have to take the show going forward without these people, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying that it doesn't matter. You're losing people either way.
He cut Dave out. Bullinator, which
I don't know that he necessarily cut Dave out.
He did.
He did. He removed him. He took him access away, Shannon.
And in
Is that
Facebook,
what-
when this happened with Facebook, by the way, when this happened with Facebook, the ruling absolutely was that one 50% partner could not cut out the other 50% partner. And that's
Right.
one of the biggest case laws regarding this. And that's established precedent and was even before Facebook and has been since then.
Yep. And also keep this in mind and going forward, I'll tell you what Steve has. Steve definitely has me. Steve definitely has David, both of them actually. And we can produce, and I got a lot of good people that can make some really kick-ass artwork. I can even make some kick-ass artwork myself. I am, when Kyle asked me this question, could you do the Non Sequitur show without me and still make it just as good? My response without hesitation was yes.
Mhm.
And if we have to demonstrate that over a few weeks, that's perfectly fine. We're more than happy to do that. I don't think it needs to come to that, though. The point is that it doesn't matter who's doing the most work. What matters is what was the original agreement. The original agreement was that they would get 50%. Now, if Kyle thought that Steve McRae was not pulling his own weight, we have evidence. We have a recorded conversation of Steve McRae saying, and I quote, then I will take over the show for entire weeks and give you a vacation. I'll come on more days a week. I'll book more guests. I'll do more work to put my weight. So obviously the effort is there. The willingness to do more, it's there. It's just that there is a stone wall in the way, and that stone wall is Kyle. Kyle needs to get out. But
why? Do you think that he made that decision in a vacuum?
No, he had people telling you. No. Hang on. The why is irrelevant. Because on the original agreement, the why wasn't ever considered because the why didn't exist yet. When you make an original agreement, you stick to it. And if 50% of the people wants to buy the other person out, the other person has to agree to it. The reasons why you may dislike the guy, I don't care if I would condemn him. Let's say Steve McRae fucked Kyle's mother yesterday. Let's just say Steve McRae did the most horrific thing possible. He would still be owed that 50%, and he would still deserve it because along with Kyle and up into a certain point where Kyle himself made the choice to cut Steve out, Steve was doing a fuck ton of work and was doing a damn good job of it.
Yeah. So there's a contract?
Yes, there is a contract. In fact, we have
emails. Yeah.
And we also have a recorded conversation of Kyle admitting to it.
Yes.
And so we would have to ask the question of Kyle, why is it that you did not converse with Steve about changing the agreement? Why was Steve cut out behind his back? Why did you remove his access without talking to him first? Why did you decide to make all these decisions, which were supposed to be 50-50, without consulting the other 50%?
Yeah. Shannon,
hey, quick question.
Yeah.
If you're talking about multiple hosts, and since there are other hosts of the show now that would, if they were to split or whatever is going to happen, what's going to happen, who cares? They can make whatever decision they want, isn't relevant. But how many of the hosts that exist on Non Sequitur now were talked about with Steve?
0. None.
There you go.
Not one.
Steve, I talked to you about me. I've been on the show with
afterwards.
you.
Kyle never, when he started Smoking Nun.
Not being on the show, too.
I'm not the Smoking Nun.
Hang on. When the Smoking Nun started, I knew nothing about it till afterwards. Even Katie was like, "Are you going to be on this?" I had no idea. I was like, "I didn't know what's going on." Him inviting KC and GE, I had no idea. He didn't talk to me about any of that. Yeah. I didn't know you were coming on. I didn't know, Shannon.
So
and also part of the Q&A. All these things when the first shows go on for Smoking Nun, Q&A, and all that, I know nothing about them. I don't know what's going on half the time because Kyle doesn't tell even David what's going on. When David says, "What are we doing tonight?" he gets nothing.
David,
maybe 10 minutes before we're live.
David, I'm going to ask you to do something that I know you're probably going to be uncomfortable with, but is what Steve McRae is saying true? And if you want, you can elaborate on that.
As far as
the not informing you of what's going on with non-sec. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. There's a partially understood schedule that isn't set in stone anymore because we used to have a schedule on a calendar that I could go look at and Steve could go look at. We would know what was going on. That calendar has not been updated in I don't know how long.
4 months.
4 months.
Give or take.
And
out of curiosity, Steve, have you seen any of your residuals since the show even started?
I haven't seen a penny from that. I've given money out. I've given money to Dave, and he got some money from Non Sequitur. I haven't seen anything from the show. No.
Yeah,
Okay,
I've gotten
Stephen,
more than Steve has.
Yeah, but Steve, you have a lump sum of money that you know is waiting.
No,
for
I
you.
do
That
not
you
know
can
that.
at
First of all, I do not know that. I'm tracking him at his word that I do. I've not seen any financials. So
okay, well, that has essentially been promised to you, though.
Yes.
Yeah,
well,
but it was
a
but it
lot's
was
been promised.
but
a lot's
a lot has
been
been
promised.
promised, but
perpetuity was promised as well.
So if he email transferred you all of that money now,
That's we're talking going forward.
Yeah, that wouldn't matter. Okay, so I see what you're saying, Shannon. You're essentially saying that if Kyle were to send Steve the money right now, would everything be resolved?
No.
Right?
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm just because Steve is essentially making the argument that there's empty promises and that there's money that was never given to him, and that it's been promised to him, but he doesn't know if he can trust that promise. And I'm saying if Kyle emails him the money that was promised to him tomorrow,
no, I want to see the financials.
Will that be at least a partial resolution? Well,
No.
whatever. With the financials.
No.
Can I say one thing?
You could go with.
Oh my god!
Hang on.
I need to go to bed. I can't. Like this is just going to go in circles, and I don't know all the details. So essentially, I'm sitting in here with other people who don't know.
We need
arguing the details when I'd like it's just going to go. I'm really excited for the next 3 weeks of my life. I can't wait for everybody to make this better instead of worse. I'm sure that's exactly what's going to happen.
We can all hope that, and I always extend the invitation to Kyle to talk about it on my channel or on non-sec, wherever we're most comfortable with it, public or private, whatever. I hope we can have that conversation, and I hope you will join us. But Sean Huffer did have something to say. Sean, you have the floor.
You keep saying that Kyle has promised that he's put all this money back. Well, here's my view, and it could be considered poisoning the well a little bit. He can't keep the promise of a contract.
Thank you.
Enough said.
Okay.
Yeah, before I get any funds,
so Steve, do you want the money? Do you want Kyle to email you the money right now?
I want
with the financials.
I want the financials.
Yeah, he basically.
Do you want the financials and the money? Like, do you want Kyle to email you the money?
Let's one step at a time. I need the financials from Patreon, from Streamlabs, from Patreon, from the channel itself, from 2017. We'll worry about 2018 afterwards, but 2017 has always been processed. He told me that he would get back to me on April 15th or whatever it was. He said as soon as he said payday. He's never once mentioned to me since April. What is this? May, June. 2 months.
Okay.
I heard nothing on it.
Yeah.
So if he sends you the financials tomorrow, along with the money, does that resolve at least part of that argument?
Hang on. Let me get something else, Steve. Steve is asking for 3 things actually. 1, he wants a transcript of the financials from everywhere.
Yes.
I get that.
2, he is gonna be wanting a payout most definitely. And 3, he's wanting this relationship with him being a core part of the non sequitur to continue on into the future. Those 3 things need to happen. And here's the thing, without Steve getting a sign off on some sort of agreement in relation to those 3 things, non sequitur actually can't go on because Steve McCrae was 50% of that. Now, Steve McCrae is more than happy to work with Kyle in terms of how this 50% partnership is going to work, but it needs to be a partnership. If Kyle wants Steve McCrae to take over the show for a week so he can have a vacation, that's fine. If he says, Steve McCrae, you're going to do all the artwork and you're going to figure out the producing and you're going to figure out the guests, Steve has said, bring on that challenge. He loves it. So
I do make graphics, by the way. I've made your graphics.
There is literally no avenue that Kyle Curtis can go to unless it is to dissolve the channel right here, right now, and to start from scratch. Because Steve McCrae would see.
I mean, he's very volatile right now. I don't know.
So basically, this.
There's 2 things that can be solved right now, though. Like you said, there's 3 things. 2 of them can be solved immediately, and then the rest of it can essentially be an escrow.
But do you agree? But do you agree
Steve can have the financials, and Steve can have 50% of the money. With the, do you want that to happen tomorrow, Steve?
I want the 2017 financials, and I'll take whatever the money is after I look at the financials. I've got to look at the financials to know what I'm due, because I'm going to be using those funds to fly. So even though somebody had paid for her flight down here, very generous benefactor, but I still have to
Right.
pay for hotels.
I
and
think
some other
Shannon's
stuff.
saying she thinks she can get it to
Yeah,
you.
I'm
Steve.
okay.
I think
Yeah,
that's
that financials was the very first thing I said, if you
2017.
were listening.
Okay.
But 2017, yeah.
Financials, sure.
Okay.
Financials and money you're owed.
But
there you go. That's two of the things resolved right away that are your points of contention. Then everything else can be in escrow while you negotiate what happens going forward. Because it's not going to be resolved on this live stream.
No, I agree with
and
that.
anybody that thinks it's going to be resolved on this live stream is just waving their dick around.
No,
and here's the thing. I totally agree. But do you also agree that if the first two are done, that says absolutely nothing about the third thing, and that the third thing still needs to be discussed? Do you agree with that?
I think that that's a discussion that still needs to happen. It's none of my goddamn business, and it's none of everybody else's goddamn business. That's between Steve and Kyle. What goes? It's everybody's business. Okay.
I think it's everybody's business because Kyle forced it.
Yeah, two.
Kyle's not on this stream. He didn't have a stream. Who's forcing what?
Non sequitur is everybody's channel. One of the reasons it got popular is because I and Kyle wanted to relate to a lot of people. I consider them family. I consider the live chat family. I consider the Patreons family. These are people that are my friends. These are people that respect their opinion. We talk to them, right? We have a huge following that like both when I'm on and Kyle on, sometimes it's Kyle, sometimes me. You can't please everybody, right? Okay, but we build it to be that way, Shannon.
Yeah. Also, let me just read something from the chat that I think speaks volumes. Maybe Steve McCrae would do more for the show if he got paid in all caps. He has to do other channels to make the fucking money. I was a patron to support Kyle and Steve in all caps. So,
Steve, did Kyle give you the opportunity to have money, but you weren't able to take it because you were on Social Security or veterans pension, and it would have affected that? And Kyle didn't. Because you're making it seem as though Kyle withheld money from you.
No, let me make this very clear. I asked, Kyle said he would talk to me how it could be distributed. I asked him, okay, that's fine. Let's talk about how you're going to get it to me. He has never once told me how he's going to get it to me. He's never offered to have a discussion of how he's going to get it to me. I said, Kyle, that's fine. Let's figure out how you're going to get it to me. I thought he was going to bring it to me in October when we have this meeting in October. He can bring cash to me. Okay. But he has never asked me about how he says, I've told him, he said, how do you want it? I said, well, let's discuss it. I said, fine. We'll have a discussion on it. That discussion never happened.
And by the way, in order for that discussion to happen, I can actually vouch for Steve. Steve has been asking for weeks to see the financial, and now for months actually. So here's the thing: no matter how you slice it, Kyle is the one that dropped the ball here.
Yeah,
I hate to say this so bluntly, but in this situation, Kyle is the bad guy here.
Yeah, this isn't about money. This is about not handling things properly.
It's about money. It's about promises.
Yeah. And also the fact that if the first two things were taken care of, like let's say tomorrow, and Steve was to get his money, and Steve saw the finances and all that good shit, it would the question would still be up in the air about where to go from here with non-sec. So at this point, there's two options. There's two options that can happen, and I think Steve McCrae is going to agree with me here. Either Steve McCrae continues on as a 50% partner with non-sec as originally agreed, or non-sec gets flushed down the toilet and is removed altogether.
There might be a third option where Boole gets a cut.
That too.
I tried to cut. I did want that. I thought we were going to have a negotiation, renegotiate, and say, look, I want to give Bullinator 10% of my share and 10% of Kyle's share, so it'd be 70.
But hasn't Kyle sent Boole purchased things for Dave?
Okay. Let me clarify this. The agreement, there's been some agreement between Kyle and myself about paying for the internet bill here because I need that to produce the channel. So that's a channel expense.
Right.
And it's my understanding as a channel expense. So if he wants to count that as paying me, that's fine too. I can eat the expense of the internet. However, the number of shows that I do versus the amount of money I get per month, I'm not doing this for the money, guys. I'm not. If I was doing this for the money, I would have cut and run a long time ago.
Amen.
So let's just be clear. The whole reason I've carried on producing the Non Sequitur show is because I like producing it. I'm good at producing it. People have commented on my skills as a producer, and I want it as a portfolio. It's a good portfolio show. It says, hey, here, this is where I started a year ago with me and sitting there.
Hey, Dave.
With Telltale Atheist and Kyle when Steve had a day off. That was my first show. Now we're up to the point where I'm producing it every time, and I'm okay with that. The problem is that's a lot more work.
Hey, Bull, one quick thing. People in the Discord are asking about the Discord.
Yeah. Also, before that,
can I just go to bed? Can I just say goodbye?
You can go to bed. You can go to bed. Where I'm going to.
Nice meeting you.
I'm going to go. Also,
good talk. Good talk, everyone.
I'm going to also go over some finances, because here's the thing. Steve made the claim that I know more about it than
I'm
than
going.
he does.
Goodbye.
Bye, Shannon.
Good night, Shannon.
Now, part of that is actually true. I do know more about the finances than Steve does. Now, I'm going to go ahead and reveal something, but I have done the math. Bullinator is getting paid a certain amount for internet access, okay? And that certain amount is undisclosed, okay? Now, to be clear, the cost of the internet is a certain bill. Bullinator is owed 8 times the amount than what the cost of the internet bill actually is.
Oh, yeah.
Now, David, or Bullinator, has not seen that 8 times of the amount, because that would have equaled the 20% that he was originally agreed. Now, Steve paid him his portion of the 20% that was supposed to go to Bull, even though Steve wasn't getting paid.
I think it was that much. No, I gave him a couple $100.
Yeah,
he didn't give me. He didn't give me 10%, but it's not. It's Steve was paying me out of the goodness of his heart and his own pocket,
and my Patreon. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, at this point, I need this shit to be resolved, because I do want this to be resolved. I do want the Non Sequitur show to progress and be stronger, be better, and just be a good fucking show, the good show that it was the entire time. Now, some people are going to look at this Hangout as a catastrophic shit show. And you know what? I completely fucking agree. This Hangout should have never fucking happened, and the wrong people are going to fucking enjoy it. The wrong people are going to enjoy it, and to those people, I say go fuck yourself. But I think honestly that that with what's going on, they should be partners. They should continue. And yes, and to answer, Kyle was 50%, Steve was 50%, and then from both of their mutual 50%, they would give Bullinator the amount that would equal 20%.
10%. Yeah, 10 each. Yeah.
10 each percent off of what would actually be going down.
Right.
So that means Bullinator should be compensated for his time producing the Non Sequitur show, sometimes and more often than not on very short notice. So the one thing that you do not want to do is question me on math, because I guarantee you I know a lot more than you think I do. And so when it comes to this, the math does not add up in Kyle's favor. It doesn't. None of it does. And by the way, when it comes to just the moral aspect of it, the financial aspect of it, when it comes to the legal aspect of it, Kyle is in the wrong 100%. And his response to this, instead of actually coming up with a solution that, actually works, that wasn't just fuck off Steve, was basically fuck all of us.
It's kind of bizarre that, given that Kyle is kind of the coordinator for communicating with guests, he's not communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're a guest, if you were planning to go on the Non Sequitur show, say something, because I have been inundated with emails from people saying, I've tried to reach out to Kyle. Kyle said, he's scheduling. I've had this the other day. We had a scheduling thing when RCA was supposed to have been on. He's like, am I on tonight? What's going on? And so I have brought people to even now be guests that are just not getting feedback. All
right. Well, we're going to go ahead and end this. And Steve, you're going to be the one to end it. I'm going to ask you a series of questions just to make sure that there is no misunderstanding here. Is that cool, Steve?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my links. People are asking. I'm putting.
Yeah.
If you want to become a Patreon, that's fine. But look, I'm not asking anybody to stop. Don't unsubscribe to the Non-Sequitur Show. Don't stop being a Patreon. Let's try to resolve it first. Let's see where it goes. Okay, this is not a call out for action here. The only call out to action is that I think that Kyle needs to stop and think what he's doing. I know he's going through a lot of stuff. Take that into account. Be gentle.
Do not under any circumstances shit on Kyle.
Right.
Do not.
Right.
In any way, shape, or form. Okay. If you really are a true member of Team Cunt, do not do that. Okay. You know,
don't take this to Kyle's door and hit him up like you got a chip on your shoulder, because
don't do that. That is not how we want this to go. So let me go ahead and just ask Steve a series of questions.
Right. I'm ready, man. Hang on, got to warm up. And by the way, I do need a sub drive. Team Skeptic is probably if you hope you help out, Reds, but he wants to get the flat Earth debunker together.
Don't worry. We're going to ace that shit. Great. Okay,
I can get 10,000. I can do it.
Okay, Steve. Here's the question. Are you willing to put more work into the Non-Sequitur Show than what you have been doing in the past few months?
Absolutely.
Are you?
But let me qualify. The only reason my work has gone down is because my work has gone to naught, because everything I've been trying to get guests has been. He said that he doesn't want.
That part is irrelevant. But basically, you are willing to put in the effort to earn your 50%.
I'll do 10 shows a week if he wants.
Perfect. And by the way, there's 7 days in the week. You fucking asshole.
But you can do more than one show a day, dipshit. I'm the math guy. Fuck you.
I thought we were doing one show a day, but you know what? Fuck me. What do I know? Okay, so anyway, when it comes to the financial, you are more than happy to be fully transparent about the financials if you do take control of the Non-Sequitur Show for a certain period of time. You'll be 100% transparent with the financials, and you will pay him his due.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Next question. If you were to have a conversation with Kyle about all the shit that's going on, you have no qualms about doing it publicly, privately, whatever the case may be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, Steve is more than willing to do more work. He's more than happy to make sure he keeps his side deal, regardless how much work Kyle puts into it. And basically, with Steve McRae open to have the conversation, I say, Kyle, the ball is 100% in your court. And I say this as a friend. I hope you make the right fucking decision. I really do, because I have a lot of respect for you. I want Non-Sequitur to be fucking amazing. And I hope I can just fucking delete this hangout and never pay any attention to it ever the fuck again. And just move on. Just fucking move on. At this point, I have to echo something Shannon Q said. All I want to do is go to bed, jack off, and fall asleep to the cum stains, okay?
Listen, you're saying that, and you got me the fuck out of bed for this. I was in bed.
Yeah, that's not a bed. That's a floor, first of all. And
I was legitimately in bed, so yeah.
Okay. And secondly, I'm sorry, Jared, but fuck you anyway.
Yeah, promise me you're not going to delete this hangout without me knowing.
I will only delete this hangout once I get the blessing from both you and Kyle.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. So I don't know what else to be said. People are going to be wondering why we took this public, but people that are in the know will actually understand why. I want things to be transparent. I want to show that's transparent. My channel is transparent. I'm transparent. This is one of the reasons people that do trust me, because I tell people the truth. I give them reasons to believe me, and I will validate it if they come to me privately, and sometimes publicly. But there's a reason why we are doing what we're doing now. It is not to bash on Kyle in any way, shape, or form. It's quite the opposite. If he does have some medical things going on, then this might actually be to his advantage, where he can take some time off, and we can take over the show for a while, and he doesn't have to have that load and that stress on.
We're more than happy to help out. But with that, we're gonna go down the list now. So first off, Jared, say what you gotta say and get the fuck out.
It would help to undo the mute in the hangout.
Yeah.
Not how I wanted to spend the night, but it really comes down to a simple thing. When you make a business agreement, you have to fulfill that agreement before you can renegotiate it. That goes for everyone on all sides. It doesn't matter the history. In order to renegotiate an agreement, you have to make the current agreement whole before you can do so.
Okay. And David, not Bullinator, say what you gotta say and get the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around since non-sec started, and I just hope to see that it actually gets back to where it's being run well again, because it's certainly fallen apart in the last little while.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope there's a peaceful resolution at the end of the day. But it's obviously pretty complicated right now. So yeah. Other than that, I hope everybody here gets some good sleep and not too stressed.
All right. Thank you for showing up. Steve McCrae, say what you gotta say and get the fuck out.
Why nobody else got out? Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, somebody sent me this message, and I think this is a good way to end it. I'm not going to say who, but they said never ever back down on the non sequitur thing, and I never back down on anything when I have a reason to have a discussion or argument or something I feel that I'm correct on. These are ethical issues right now that I'm really bringing to the table. I think that when you make a promise to somebody and you do it by handshake and you rely on somebody's honor and their integrity, that means a lot to me. I've been screwed over before. People have screwed other people before. I think we've all had to deal with that, especially being on the internet, right? And there might be some people that might get some Schadenfreude or where the hell it is out of this. But let me tell you something. I'm not hurt by this as much as you think. I'm hurt that a friend is doing this. I am bothered by that, yes. But I have been planning for this for months, seeing this come down the pike. This is nothing. This is not new stuff, right? So I've been coming to terms with it. But I was hoping that other people would reach out to Kyle prior to this. And instead of having one group whispering in his ear how bad I am, the other group whispering in his ear, recognizing to him that, look, Steve helped make this channel. Steve and Kyle is non sequitur. You can't just say, look, I'm going to cut you out and take take the entire money from here on out for a channel we build. That is not ethical. It is unethical, no matter how you slice it. So I think that needs to be it's not spin control. It's not narrative. It's just hope Kyle is well. I hope that his medical thing is not as bad as it may be, but there's a show to be had. There's money to be had. There's a channel out there, and I want to see it succeed. This is not to slam on him, because if it is, then I'm shooting myself in the foot, right? I think Non Sequitur as a show that we have was brilliant. I think that the producers that we have was brilliant. I think Dave M, Dave F, and everybody else that was involved in this show that made the show what it is. You guys are Non Sequitur as well, so you do have a voice in this. You guys are part of the Non Sequitur family. So I just hope that you reach out to Kyle and maybe kind of coax him in the right direction, because he doesn't respond well to hostile things, and I get that, right? Some of us don't. I may be the same way, but just hang in there. Don't take any major drastic action yet. Let's see what happens, right? I want this to succeed. Okay. And Red, thank you for having this hangout. I appreciate it, man. I couldn't ask for a better friend. You have been the most loyal, upstanding, righteous, big asshole friend of mine that I could possibly ever imagine.
Only the hairiest for you, man.
Hairiest has hairiest. Good night.
All right. Thank you very much. Bullinator, say what you gotta say and get the fuck out.
I don't know exactly what to say, but I'm going to say this.
Well, how about you answer a question instead? Do you still want to go out for food? I can pick you up in about 5 minutes.
You would love to.
Well, can you guys pick me up like some Wendy's?
Chess, you're in that place called Not America, so no.
Yeah, it'll get cold. But what am I trying to say?
Take your time.
It came to a head tonight because I personally got tired of being in the middle of it. Because Kyle and Steve weren't communicating, so who does Steve turn to for answers? He turns to me. Then I have to ask Kyle. Then I have to wait for Kyle to answer. I was becoming secretary on top of producer. And I'm autistic. It's really hard for me to get in between stuff, and I got pushed tonight. I really did. So part of this coming to a head tonight is my fault, but it was going to happen anyway. It was going to happen one way or the other. The conversation needed to be had, and that's all I got to say.
Yeah. And so thank you very much for showing up, David, and I'll call you in a bit. Chess, say what you got to say and get the fuck out.
I think the Non Sequitur show can be better than what it's being. I think it was better than what it's being, and I think the direction into... I'm concerned that Kyle is following short-term numbers rather than a long-term quality show. They had Lawrence Krauss, for fuck's sakes. Like, why are we going from Loris Krause to Nathan Thompson? Like, this is not an upwards growing scale. This is garbage that you can throw on this is the potato chips you eat between things. This isn't your dinner. And I think the drive in that direction is going to hurt the show either way. If the show ends up splitting, I don't think if Kyle continues to do, and again, this is not to shit on Kyle or any of the other hosts, but if they drive the show in the direction they're currently driving it in, it will cap out. And it's not going to grow anymore, and it's just going to be dumpster fires all the time, every day, drama, and it will be a drama channel. Because the people who are bringing the content that made the show as great as it is are going to be some of the ones that they're going to be losing. If you want to have a good show, you need to have Boole. You need to have David. You need to have Steve, because they're, between the three of them, out of 4 from the initial group that worked on the show, even if they weren't all partners, you're losing 3 out of 4. That's more than 50%, and Kyle's going to lose more than 50% in dealing with this. And that's all I think I have to say.
Thank you very, very much. Go back to sleeping on that Japanese mattress of yours.
Mattress. It's a king quilt.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, with that, Nick, say what you got to say and get the fuck out.
Everybody loves Kyle. I think everybody loves Steve, and that's why this is so hard on everybody. I think Shannon, did a really good job of trying to find something to work with. I think if financials come forward, if I don't think the money's all that important necessarily right away. It's the financials that is what represents, having a really owning that stake in the show. And the truth of the matter is, he invested time in the show, he invested money in the show, and love and passion, sweat, and if Steve doesn't represent his own rights and interests, why would anyone want to collaborate on a project? So unfortunately, the show is important to everybody, but Steve really does need to represent his interests. But the thing is, I think what everybody really wants to see is Kyle and Steve doing the show, and I don't think there's anyone in here that doesn't want to see that. And wherever short-term trends may be headed, Cheshire made an excellent point. I mean, they've had on just spectacular guests, and I think it's just going to keep going up. And you can listen to people who are having a hard time, or you can realize that this show has had spectacular success in 1 year, and Steve is 50% of that. And it's not just on paper; he's 50% of that success. People like the interaction between the two of them. They like what Steve brings, which is different from what Kyle brings, and it's spectacular. That's the show. And if Steve wasn't there, you wouldn't have non-sec anyway, and the whole thing becomes moot. Thank you.
Thank you very much for showing up. And by the way, love what you do. Keep doing what you're doing.
I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sean Hufford, say what you got to say and get the fuck out.
Well, everybody knows what I'm like, and there's a very specific reason why I was very quiet through most of this, because a lot of it was dealing with emotion. A lot of it was dealing with raised tempers, which is understandable. This is a very stressful situation for everybody, because I love the non-sec show. I love Kyle and Steve being on the show. But I'm very pragmatic, especially when it comes to objective facts. And those objective facts do not look highly on Kyle in this situation. Kyle needs to take a few days, get himself calmed down. I don't know what medical issues he's dealing with, so I can't give any kind of opinion on that, because I don't know what he's going through. But going by what Steve says, he's got some issues that he's dealing with on the side. He might want to step back from doing anything on YouTube for a few days till he can get things straightened out, get his head cleared up, let the tensions drop a little bit, and understand that he had a 50-50 agreement. He needs to honor that. He also needs to understand that with a 50-50 agreement in place from the inception of the show, a dissolution would require the show to be not only both participants to say, okay, we have irreconcilable differences, we need to go our separate ways. In this type of business situation, the show is required to be dissolved and all proceeds split in half with the 50-50 contract that they had. Failing that, Kyle has literally, and I'm guessing he did this out of the passion of the moment at the end of your call when he cut everybody out. He has literally done a 50% hostile takeover of the non-sec show. And I called Shannon out for doing her non-sec versus Steve thing, which she stood corrected on. She understood how that was wrong, and I applaud her for that. But Kyle has done a hostile takeover that is not legal to do. And he needs to step back, realize that he made a mistake, and either continue on with a non-sec show with Steve still being a 50% partner, or make an offer to possibly buy Steve out, which is a third way that, or is another way that a 50-50 partnership can dissolve. You can buy the other partner out, or the show just needs to dissolve if they can't come up to any kind of agreement. Those are his options. Continue running, buy Steve out, or dissolve the show. It cannot continue without both partners unless those are met. So with that, like I said, I'm trying to stay as emotionless as possible and just going by strict law and fact here. Take a step back and take a breath, Steve or Kyle, and figure out what you need to do. With that, I'm done.
All right. Thank you all for being here. It seems very strange to actually say that, considering the type of hangout this was. Thank you to all of those who super chatted, but because of the nature of this hangout, I'm not going to read the super chats, but I am going to thank Reed, Jake 3D, Uncle Ned, Cold Bones, and Schrodinger. I'm sorry, English.exe has stopped working for me, so I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry. But thank you to these individuals who super chatted. Thanks, Jake 3D, for making multiple super chats, and to you, Reed, for making multiple super chats. I do appreciate it. It has been acknowledged. It is appreciated. I'm just not gonna start reading this because it really is time for this issue to be resolved. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this hangout. I am gonna leave this hangout on my channel. And I would just say thank you very much for being here. And I really do hope this gets resolved and quickly. Thank you and good night.